I love when states stand up for themselves and tell the federal government no. In one such example, the state of Missouri legislature has passed the Second Amendment Preservation Act. We'll take a closer look at this legislation next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and teach the rising generation to be free. I'm glad you could join me today. As always, head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com, for all things Constitution Study. You can find out where I'm speaking. I've got several engagements coming up in the next couple of months. If you'd like me to come and participate in one of your events, let me know. You can always ask me to speak from the website. I especially want to thank those who are helping me get the word out. The Dustin and Jesse and Kim. I don't have permission to use your full names. I'm just using first names. You know who you are. You help spread the word about the Constitution. I thank you very much, and I want to make sure everyone knows this doesn't happen alone. And if you want to join in, if you want to come and help me get the work done, that would be great. That would be awesome. As always, you can find out what's going on the website. Sign up for the mailing list. I'll let you know what's going on, what's coming up. The book is going really well. Basically the book is written. I'm right now looking for an editor to do a good deep edit on it. I'm still planning on having that out by the end of the year, along with the at least the first module of the online study course. That's my next big goal. And I love all the help. We're going to talk about the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act, but I want to make sure that you know that I love the engagement. I love when you ask questions. I love when you let me know what's going on. And in fact, leave me a comment if there's anything else you would like to see me discuss, any other concepts or topics you want me to cover. Leave me a comment, let me know. I'll be more than happy to give it a try. So, off to Missouri, otherwise known as the Show Me State. That's why I called this the Show Me Nullification. So, with this legislation, the Second Amendment Protection Act, the Missouri legislature showed the nation what state sovereignty is all about. See, the legislation in question, which is House Bill 1039 and Senate Bill 367, are collectively known as the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Now, this is not just about the Second Amendment. I actually want to talk about this idea of state sovereignty, states' rights, as it's also put. You see, within the language of the bill are some really very important questions. Things like, does the Constitution mean what it says or not? Is the agreement between the states a binding compact, or is it putty in the hands of an ever-growing federal government? So in this episode, I want to focus on the language from the House bill, just because I had to pick one. Therefore, which one I picked was just a wee bit important. So let's take a look at the language of the bill. The General Assembly of the State of Missouri is firmly resolved to support the federal and defend the Constitution of the United States against every aggression, whether foreign or domestic, and is duty-bound to oppose every infraction of those principles which constitute the basis of the Union of the States, because only a faithful observance of the principles can secure the nation's existence and public happiness. Stumbled over that a little bit, but it's really kind of important. Look what we have here. See, every state and federal officer swears or affirms to support the Constitution of the United States. Legislative, executive, judicial, it is a requirement of Article 6. And in fact, Article 6, Clause 3 says, the senators and representatives before mentioned and of the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution. See, the legislature of the state of Missouri has resolved that they're actually going to do that. They're going to support and defend the Constitution. Notice they're going to defend it against foreign and domestic aggression. See, when was the last time you thought of a federal overreach as an aggression against the Constitution? Notice I say it is their duty to oppose every infraction. Again, think about that. It's not, well, we're protecting our rights. No, no, no. It's a duty for them to oppose these infractions. Because only a faithful observance of the principles of the Constitution can secure both the nation's happiness and its existence. You see, by letting the federal government, or any government for that matter, ignore the Constitution, we are contributing to the destruction of our nation as we know it. If we cannot observe the principles of the Constitution, then this experiment in self-government truly has failed. Continue on. Acting through the Constitution of the United States, the people of the several states created the federal government to be their agent in the exercise of a few defined powers, while reserving to the state governments the power to legislate on matters which concern the lives, liberties, and properties of citizens in the ordinary course of affairs. They're obviously talking about the 10th Amendment, where it says any power not granted to the federal government remains with the states or with the people. It's this general idea that the federal government was designed to deal with foreign interactions while the states dealt with domestic interactions. The legislation goes on. The limitation of the federal government's power is affirmed under Article 10 of the Constitution of the United States, which defines the total scope of federal power as being that which has been delegated by the people of the several states to the federal government, and all power not delegated to the federal government in the Constitution of the United States is reserved to the states respectively or to the people themselves. As I said, it's basic Article 10 or Amendment 10 language. If the federal government assumes powers that the people did not grant it in the Constitution of the United States, its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. By the way, this isn't just the state of Missouri saying this. This is Alexander Hamilton. This is the Supreme Court in Marbury versus Madison. All of them affirmed that any act of the legislature outside of the purview of the U.S. Constitution is null and void. If the government created by a compact among the states was the exclusive or final judge of the extent of the powers granted to it by the states through the Constitution of the United States, the federal government's discretion and not the Constitution of the United States would necessarily become the measure of those powers. This is a bit legalistic wording, but it's awesome. The federal government is a creation of the Constitution, is a creation of the states via the Constitution. If the creation gets to determine what it is, we're out of control. If the federal government gets to exclusively determine what their powers are, if they can simply say, this is our power, and go ahead and do that, the Constitution means nothing. The federal government would become a tyrant, which it's become. No, the federal government is a creation of the Constitution, and as such is limited by it and by the states. The Constitution rules. It seems we've forgotten that we created the federal government through our states. We've defined its powers and the limits of its authority. The Missouri General Assembly reminds us of this fact very forcefully. They also remind us that, contrary to popular belief, the federal government is not all powerful. Any act contrary to the Constitution is void. It has no legal force. Well, at least it shouldn't. But what are we to do? How do we stand up to a federal government when it acts beyond its legal limits? Well, let's ask Missouri. So they say, to the contrary, as in all other cases of compacts among powers having no common judge, each party has an equal right to judge for itself as to if infractions of the compact have occurred, as well as to determine the mode and measure of redress. Although the several states have granted supremacy to laws and treaties made under the powers granted the Constitution of the United States, such supremacy does not extend to various federal statutes, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, regulations, or other actions which restrict or prohibit the manufacture, ownership, and use of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition exclusively within the borders of Missouri. Such statutes, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, regulations, and other actions exceed the power granted to the federal government, except to the extent that they are necessary and proper for governing and regulating land and naval forces of the United States, or for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia forces actively employed in the service of United States Armed Forces. Long legalese, but cool. I don't know. I find this cool. What does it say? In any situation where you have an agreement, a compact, a contract, that they don't set up an external judge, the parties of the contract get to judge what it means. And although we've said that the Constitution is supreme, and that federal laws made pursuant to the Constitution are supreme, any law that is not pursuant to the Constitution is not supreme. It does not extend to all of these statutes, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules and regulations. Let's beat up on the executive branch. All those rules, all those regulations, the ones that are outside the Constitution, no, they are void. Any actions restricting or prohibiting the manufacture, ownership, and use of firearms, accessories, or ammunition within the state of Missouri, those are void. What does he say? All such orders, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, regulations, other, exceed the power granted to the federal government. All federal firearms regulations, except for interstate commerce, or in this case, what they're saying is the land and naval forces or the arming of the militia, are exceeding the power of the federal government. Therefore, they are null and void. And it's about time these states stand up. See, we've lost this idea. The federal government, as a creation of the Constitution, is neither its judge, nor is it a party to it. See, to give the federal government unchecked authority to determine its powers would be to place it above the Constitution. This idea that whatever Congress passes is a law of the land, no. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And it's a lot of the reasoning why we have an ever-expanding federal government and ever more tyrannical laws and rules coming out of Washington, D.C. See, as a party to this compact, the General Assembly of Missouri notes they have a right to judge when an infraction of the compact has occurred. And this is important. You see, as a party to the compact, the state of Missouri has the authority over the creation of the compact. In this case, the federal government. Recognizing that the federal government has no legal authority to regulate arms within the borders of the state except as part of the armed forces of the nation, the Missouri General Assembly goes on and further explains their position. But look at what they've done so far. This is awesome. Right? The people of Missouri have vested the General Assembly with the authority to regulate the manufacture, possession, exchange, and use of firearms within the borders of the state, subject only to the limits imposed by the Amendment 2 of the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Missouri. And the General Assembly of the State of Missouri strongly promotes responsible gun ownership, including parental supervision of minors and the proper use, storage, and ownership of all firearms, the prompt reporting of stolen firearms, and the proper enforcement of all state gun laws. The General Assembly of the State of Missouri hereby condemns any unlawful transfer of firearm and the use of any firearm in any criminal or unlawful activity. The people of Missouri have vested the power to regulate firearms within their state to their own legislature, not the federal government. The people of the several states did not vest the federal government with authority to regulate the possession, sale, or exchange of firearms, ammunition, or firearms accessories within a state. In fact, the only thing they're vested with is establishing regular commerce between the states. Neither did they authorize Congress to collect taxes or create laws beyond their authority as defined by the Constitution. It is the state legislatures that have this authority within the bounds described by the Second Amendment. So what are they going to do about it? Oh, let's go back to the text. All federal acts, laws, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, and regulations, regardless if enacted before or after the provisions of Section 1410, and 145, which infringe on the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by Amendment 2 to the Constitution of the United States and Article 1, Section 23 of the Constitution of Missouri, shall be invalid in the state and shall not be recognized by the state, shall be specifically rejected by the state, and shall be considered null and void and of no effect in this state. Bravo, bravo, Missouri. The state of Missouri identifies federal acts that are infringements not only on the people's right to keep and bear arms, but on the state's sovereignty. They declare them in violation of Missouri law, and that if anyone that infringes on the rights of the people to keep and bear arms are null, void, and of no effect in their state. Again, bravo, about bloody time. The general, and even better, this is great. The General Assembly then put some teeth to this. In Section 1440, they write, "It shall be the duty of courts and law enforcement agencies of this state to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms within the borders of the state and protect these rights from the infringements defined under Section 420. Guess what? The courts and law enforcement have a duty to protect the rights of citizens in Missouri under this law. I'd love to see them do it. 450. No person, including any public officer or employee of the state or any political subdivision of the state, shall have the authority to enforce or attempt to enforce any federal acts, laws, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, regulations, statutes, or ordinances infringing on the right to keep and bear arms as described under Section 410. Guess what? No person, no public officer, no employee of the state, no employee of towns and counties shall have the authority to enforce a federal law in violation of this act. Yes, wonderful. Make sure the state employees understand they are bound to uphold not only the federal constitution, but their state constitution as well. And then 460.3, sovereign, official, or qualified immunity shall not be an affirmative defense in such acts. I love this. You know, not only, look what we've got here, right? Missouri courts and law enforcement are required to defend the citizens of their state. They will not have the authority to enforce federal law that infringes on citizens, the rights of the citizens of their state, and even no claim of immunity shall be a defense against these legal actions. So if a member of BATFE comes in, they can be arrested. Right? Because notice, it is the duty of not only the duty of courts and law enforcement to protect the citizens' rights, but even to protect them against the federal infringement of their rights. So they're not just saying that Missouri courts and Missouri law enforcement cannot infringe on their rights. They're saying, should this bill become law, if a public official violates a citizen's rights protected by this legislation, even just saying, well, I was doing my job, will not be a defense. Not even this doctrine of selective immunity, the idea that law enforcement can't be arrested for doing their job. Guess what? That means if a BATFE agent can be arrested, they can be charged for violating the law while acting under the authority as a federal agent. Isn't that cool? This is a state really standing up saying, this is what the law says, this is what the Constitution says, and by golly, they're going to hold people to it. And even more, the person violating Missouri law can be held individually accountable, even when acting under orders. In other words, you don't have to sue the federal government in federal court using federal lawyers. You can sue them in Missouri court with personal lawyers. So I love this. I got so excited when I read this because we see the General Assembly of the state of Missouri picking up their responsibility to protect the rights of their citizens, taking a spine to protect their sovereignty, and not to remediate are violations of the Constitution to which they are a party. They're not going to say, yeah, whatever, we're not going to worry about it. Maybe it's time citizens of the other 49 states started hiring state representatives who will pick up this responsibility as well. We've all been taught about checks and balances between the three branches of the federal government, but we have not been taught about those established between the states and the federal government. And it's about time we do. It's time we see these checks reinstated and the balance returned to the governing of this nation. I now wait. I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm anticipating to see if the legislature of Missouri will fulfill this promise. Not just pass this legislation into law, but enforce it as well. You may remember Kansas tried something very similar, but the first time the law was violated by federal officials, the government officials folded, including the governor. They folded like a cheap suit. So you know what? I wish Godspeed to the people of Missouri, and if push comes to shove, I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to help you defend your rights. I hope you will too. This is how federalism is supposed to work. The states are supposed to be a buffer between us and the federal government. They're protect us from an out-of-control federal government. And this is the type of education that we need so that we can understand not only what Missouri is doing and why they're doing it, but why all the other states should be doing it as well. So that when the lawyers and the pundits start spouting off nonsense about the supremacy clause and federal laws and Supreme Court, we can say, that's not the way it works. The compact says the states are parties and the federal government is a creation, heel. So I hope you like this. There's more coming. Missouri's doing more, and I'm seeing a couple of things from other states as well I'll be talking about. Again, please subscribe to the podcast, like the channel, follow me on YouTube, Facebook. I'm debating getting a Twitter account. I don't like the little short format. I'm more of a long format type of person, but let me know if you want to see me popping out stuff on Facebook or on Twitter. I'd consider it. Subscribe to the mailing list, and I can let you know what's going on. And as always, please head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com, and head over there. Ask questions. I got a little confused with what I saw on my screen. Ask questions. Give me comments. Let me know what you're thinking. I love it because I've got a couple of good questions recently that have turned into upcoming episodes, and I'd love to have more because I think they're really great. I think they're engaging for me. I think they're engaging for you. I hope you enjoyed this little thing. I hope you'll follow what's going on in Missouri and maybe point your own state representative, state senator to that as well. So keep following. I'll have another episode about more of what Missouri is doing shortly, but that'll be on one of the new that will be on another episode. I hope to see you then on the Constitution Study. Have a great day.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday America.